John here. So you bought your Nikon Z30 and you know it does pictures, videos, and now you want to up your streaming game. This is how we're going to do it. So you've got the other gear that you need to get this thing up and running. Link is in the description if you haven't seen that yet. And I suggest you go do that before we get started. Also, you've picked one of the 3 streaming apps found online. And these will either hook you up to YouTube or Twitch. I've used all 3, and personally, I prefer Streamlabs because it's very simple. Now that we have everything together, let's get to it. We got our beautiful subject and content creator, Pikachu. So the first thing we're going to do is press the I button on the camera, and that's the info button. That brings up all the other settings that are easily accessible here that we can mess around with prior to our stream if we wanted to do it in camera. First off, we're going to set the picture control to auto because we just want to get this thing up and running, and the colors are fine. Next, we want to adjust the frame rate to that which we are going to stream. So this camera can record up to 4K 30 frames per second, but most streamers are either streaming in 1080p 60 or 1080p 30, and you can choose whatever it is best for you and your stream. For myself, I'm going to leave the video quality high and change it to 1080p 60 because that's what I'm streaming at. Noise reduction and Wi-Fi we don't play with. The vibration reduction setting we could play with if we were going to do like a live stream, let's say, where we're moving the camera around, but because it's locked off on a tripod, we don't need to do that. And for our focus, we want to be focusing on ourselves. So because we want it to just lock off on our face, we'll pick the autofocus people, or if you're streaming your animals, maybe you could do that as well. Lastly, for the white balance, you can choose either an auto white balance or pick a specific color white balance depending on your environment. Because my room is very blue and it's got a lot of lights going on, I prefer to choose my own. Color temperature will change the hue to either more of a blue or of an orange, depending on how high or low you choose in the Kelvin. For this room, because it's so blue, I'm going to leave it around 5,000 Kelvin. But for your stream, it may change. By leaving it on auto, it could change at any point and you're not in control anymore. For everything else, we're just going to leave it standard, and that's that. Lastly, we're going to mess around with our camera settings. Shutter speed can be located in the back dial here, and typically I'm going to leave it 1 over double whatever my frame rate is. So in this case, because I'm shooting in a 60 frame per second timeline, that is my stream, I'm going to leave it at 1 over 125. For the ISO, we're going to hold the ISO button at the top and then turn the dial located here, and that's going to change how bright an image can be. Because my room is so dark, I'm going to pump it up to 800. For our aperture, or f-stop, we're going to turn the dial in the front of the camera, and that'll change how much light enters the front of the lens. Some lenses can open up the iris extremely wide, while others, like your stock lens, can go as low as only f4, which is fine. Now, this number will change the depth of field, so if you want a blurry background, a lower f-stop is needed. If you're okay with people seeing the background a little bit more clear, then a higher f-stop is used. Keep in mind, your ISO may need to change. Now that everything's in camera, we can head on over to our streaming software and just make sure everything's good. Now that I've got you back here, this is what I see when I'm streaming. Now to get the basics going, we're gonna head on over to our cog in the bottom left corner, head over to our output settings. If you've got a new graphics card, we're gonna adjust this encoder setting, H.264 new. Our bitrate, which is the most important. If you're streaming at 1080p 60, we're going to be setting our bitrate to 6,000. If you're streaming in 4K, it's going to be much higher than that, but I would Google search that to get the exact number. Depending on your streaming service, like Twitch, your max bitrate, if you're newer, is around 6,000. So I would hover around there regardless and just leave it at 1080. Setting profiles to high and keyframes to 0 is perfectly fine, and then we can basically move on. Your base resolution that most streamers are currently using is 1080p. So we're going to set our base canvas, which is our current canvas, and our output to 1080p as well. The downscale filter is a little bit tricky, and this would really only apply if you're downscaling from like a 4K image to like a lower resolution screen as an output. But I've had the most success with bilinear. I am outputting as well in 60p, and keep in mind too that I'm recording in 60p. If these two numbers are different, you're going to get a little bit of choppiness, as you've seen in my previous videos. that I've highlighted before, so be very aware. The goal is you want everything to match. Color format, because this camera records in 8-bit, we want to leave it at 8-bit and in Rec 709. Now these little settings tweaks will really up your game in your streaming. I mean, I used to stream from a webcam, and while that's perfectly fine, I just wanted a little bit more quality, and this camera has done that for me. Thanks for watching to the end, folks. I appreciate you. Like and sub, I would really appreciate it. We're trying to get this channel up there. This YouTube channel is kind of like my journal. I do all the things I like to do here. I stream, which you can find me on Twitch. I record videos of me playing golf. I play airsoft. I travel and just have a good time. And that's what this is for me. And I hope you guys enjoy. I appreciate you. And if you have any questions, let me know and I will answer them. Have yourselves a good day. Cheers.